I'm Mark Meckler, and you're watching GVTV News.
Thanks, Mark, and I'm Randy Hansen. In world news headlines today, Komen officials resign over Planned Parenthood controversy. And in Syria, UN drops call for Assad resignation. And out of Egypt, 4 killed as thousands protest soccer deaths. The NATO chief contradicts Pineda on Afghan timetable. And Israel says Iranian missiles could reach United States. And Khmer Rouge commander gets life term. And Trump backs Romney ahead of Nevada caucus. And SEC issued scores of waivers to Wall Street firms in fraud cases. And Holder takes heat from Congress for Fast and Furious weapons sting. Yemeni activist protests Soleil's New York City visit. And Sierra Club took $26 million from gas industry. And U.S. more than doubles names on no-fly list. GVTV News would like to say this views expressed on our news broadcast do not necessarily reflect the views of NCTV Digital Media Center. Unlike some news media, anyone can use any information on our news any way you want, and guess what? It's free. You do not have to subscribe to us for your daily news. But before these stories, GVTV News would like to thank one of our underwriters who supports your only visual video news media in Nevada County. That's right, it's us, GVTV News. In today's first world news story, the nation's leading breast cancer charity, Susan G. Komen for the Cure, continues to face public backlash over its decision to cut off funding for breast cancer screening programs run by Planned Parenthood. It emerged this week Komen has withdrawn some $700,000 in funding for breast screening services provided by Planned Parenthood, citing a new policy barring funding for any groups under investigation. Planned Parenthood's finances are currently the subject of congressional probes prompted by anti-abortion groups. And a number of key members of Komen and its affiliates have announced their resignations, including Komen's top public health official, Molly Williams, Dr. Kathy Plesser, a member of Komen's Medical Advisory Board, and Deb Anthony, Executive Director of Komen's Los Angeles County Chapter. Also Thursday, all 7 of Komen's California affiliates issued a statement criticizing Komen's new policy denying grants to help groups under investigation as they try to contain the controversy. Komen officials have offered contradictory explanations for the decision to cut Planned Parenthood funding. On Thursday, Komen President Elizabeth Thompson said that the funding decision was unrelated to the congressional probe into Planned Parenthood's funds. Komen founder Nancy Brinker, meanwhile, said the decision had nothing to do with political pressure and that Komen is only seeking to back groups that directly provide breast health services instead of referrals. Planned Parenthood says it received a flood of donations since Komen's announcement over, with $400,000 coming in from online donors. New York City Mayor Mike Bloomfield and Lee and Amy Fikes Foundation have each made separate pledges of $250,000. And talks continue in the UN Security Council today over the measure to respond to Syria's government crackdown and growing uprising against Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. In a bid to avoid a Russian veto, backers of the proposed measure have dropped language calling on Assad to step down. Russia has vowed to block any measure that would allow for foreign military intervention. Ongoing talks at the United Nations came as more accounts of war zone-like atmosphere emerged from restive Syrian cities. In Homs, a young boy described what he said was the torture and murder of his father by Assad's forces, and said they called us and said that we have Abdel Fattah Hassan We went to the government hospital and he had marks of torture on his face. There were no gunshot wounds. He was just tortured. We found him dead. He was in a coma for 5 days, then died. They called us from the hospital, told us to come and get him. He had a taxi car as well. They burned the taxi. In Egypt, thousands of people protested in several cities Thursday to condemn the military government for failing to prevent the deaths of more than 70 people at a soccer game riot the night before. 4 protesters were killed when police fired into the crowd. And top U.S. and NATO officials are downplaying comments by Defense Secretary Leon Panetta suggesting an end to the combat mission in Afghanistan next year. CIA Director David Petraeus said the United States remains committed to ending the combat mission by the end of 2014. At a meeting in Brussels, NATO Secretary General Anders Fogh Rasmussen also backed a later date and said, if anyone thinks that the ISAF mission will be completed in 2013, then I declare that that's not the case. We stick to the roadmap that was outlined in Lisbon on November 2010, according to which the transition will continue till the end of 2014. But obviously from now until then, you will see a gradual development of our operation. A top Israel official is claiming the Iranian missile site destroyed in an explosion last year was producing missiles capable of reaching the United States. Moshe Yaalon, Israel's Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Strategic Affairs, made the assertion in a speech on Thursday. And he said the explosion in the research and development installation for the Iranian missile system was for a system that was prepared to produce or develop missiles with a range of 10,000 kilometers. This is for the great Satan, the United States of America, and not us, and therefore it is not a threat against Israel. So when we reach the discussion of nuclear weapons in the hands of this regime, we need to look at within this perspective. U.S. officials have cast doubt on Yalon's claims, saying Iran is nowhere close to producing missiles capable of hitting U.S. soil. Whatever. A UN-backed tribunal in Cambodia has extended the sentence of the senior Khmer Rouge commander to life in prison. Kaeng Guk Ave, who is known as Dutch, I guess it was. 19 years of overseeing the torture and the killing of more than 14,000 people. The initial verdict had outraged Khmer Rouge victims who had called for the Dutch to be jailed for life. Republican presidential contest is in full swing. Nevada Saturday's caucus on Thursday. Mitt Romney picked an endorsement from the real estate mogul and reality television personality Donald Trump. And Trump said Mitt is tough, he's smart, he's sharp, he's not going to allow bad things to continue to happen to this country that we all love. So Governor Romney, go out and get them. You can do it. Romney said, there are some things that you just can't imagine happening in your life. This is one of them. Being in Donald Trump's magnificent hotel and having his endorsement is a delight. I'm so honored and pleased to have his endorsement. Of course, I'm looking for the endorsement of the people of Nevada. Well, which he won. Initial reports had suggested Trump has set to back Romney's chief rival, Newt Gingrich. The Nevada caucus is followed by votes next week in Maine, Colorado, Minnesota, and Missouri. The New York Times has revealed new details on how the Securities and Exchange Commission has repeatedly allowed Wall Street firms to skirt punishment for fraud. What a surprise. An analysis shows the SEC has granted nearly 350 waivers to financial companies, allowing them to maintain privileges even after admitting fraudulent practices. J.P. Morgan Chase received at least 22 waivers over the past 13 years while settling 6 fraud cases, while Bank of America Merrill Lynch received 39 waivers and settled 15 times. In a speech on Thursday, Secretary of Treasury Timothy Geithner said deceptive practices by Wall Street firms are now under control. The financial system itself is getting stronger and safer, he said. Much of the excess risk-taking and careless and damaging financial practices that caused so much damage to the American economy have been forced out of the financial system. These gains, though, will erode over time if we're not able to put full reforms in place. The thief, U.S. Attorney General Eric Holder, testified before Congress on Thursday for the 6th time a controversial gun sting operation known as Fast and Furious. Operation saw U.S. agents encouraging sales of thousands of guns in the middlemen for Mexican drug cartels in an attempt to gain access to senior-level figures within Mexico's criminal organization. Eric Holder, the thief, said, now in some of my comments today, if they sound familiar, it is because this marks the 6th time I've answered questions about the operation before a congressional committee in the last year. Let me start, however, with something that cannot be said enough. My nose is growing. Allowing guns to walk, whether in this administration or a prior one, is wholly unacceptable. During Holder's appearance, House Oversight Committee Chairman Darrell Issa faulted him for the operation had been linked to the death of U.S. Border Patrol Brian agent Brian Terry. In response, Democratic Representative Elijah Cumming of Maryland defended Holder, of course, he's Democrat, and said, this committee, Darrell Issa said, this committee has lost its patience to wait longer. We will not wait until next Groundhog Day to answer for the American people, for Brian Terry, and for others. Elijah Cumming said, Mr. Chairman, although deserving credit for exposing these operations over the past 5 years, we part ways on what we do next. And now appears intent on escalating controversy and promoting unsubstantiated allegations in a campaign that looks like an election year witch hunt, which is even-handed investigation. Well, we'll see what happens, Mr. Holder. Protesters rallied outside luxury New York City hotel Thursday to denounce President Obama's decision to allow Yemeni President Ali Abdullah Saleh to enter the United States for medical treatment. Saleh is believed to be staying at the Ritz-Carlton overlooking Central Park. Nice. Yemen's Nobel Peace Prize winner Tawakkol Karman addressed the protest via cell phone and called for Saleh to be tried by an international criminal court, and said, dictators Ali Abdullah Saleh is staying in this hotel, so we came to protest the fact our government would allow him in this country to begin with. We don't feel that he should be in the United States. That was a protester, not the same guy. And we think it sends the wrong message to the Middle East if you're saying that you support democracy in the Middle East and then you're anti-extremism in the Middle East. Then you shouldn't be supporting dictators. You should be supporting people on the ground who are calling for democracy. Oh, you mean like the Brotherhood in Egypt? I mean, for years, we've criticized the Muslim world for turning extremism and not sharing the same democratic values. Meanwhile, we have an entire generation that is rising up and demanding democracy. And meanwhile, you're hosting a dictator in a five-star hotel. The message is conflicting, and there should be a consistent message coming from the White House. Good luck. The Sierra Club has admitted it accepted more than 26 million donations from one of the nation's largest natural gas companies at a time when the environmental group was publicly promoting natural gas as an alternative to coal. Thursday, Sierra Club said it stopped accepting money in 2010. Maybe it just got too much money. Associated Press is reporting the Obama administration has more than doubled the number of people in secret no-fly list who were prevented from flying to and within the United States. The government broadened the criteria of the list, which now has about 21,000 names, including some 500 Americans. American Civil Liberties Union has sued the government on behalf of the Americans who believe they have been unfairly prevented from travel. Sorry for my little points in here today, but I just couldn't help it. Hope you have a good Super Bowl day. And that's it for World News today. Now another thanks to one of our underwriters who supports your only visual video news media in Nevada County. That's right, it's us, GVTV News.
There's something happening here, but what it is ain't exactly clear. There's a man with a gun over there, telling me I got to beware.
That's right, it's time for the police blotter, and pictures in the blotter not from these actual events, but used for visual aid only. Grass Valley Police Department on Wednesday, 8:43 a.m. A caller from the 100 block of South Church Street reported 5 people passed bags back and forth, possibly drugs. No drugs were found. 11:16 a.m. a caller from 700 block of Sutton Way reported a man shoplifting. He was cited and released. 11:35 a.m. a caller from 400 block of Colfax Avenue reported a woman was going to take his medical marijuana worth $7,000. He called back at 11:42 a.m. to report that was getting 2 pounds of medical marijuana and a woman was ripping him off. 1:14 p.m. a caller from Sierra College reported a possible physical fight. A man was escorted off campus. And 1:22 p.m. a caller from Butler Street in Independent Court reported possible drug activity. And 2:50 p.m. a caller from 300 block of Railroad Avenue reported a man writing bad checks. And 3:40 p.m. a caller from 700 block of West Main Street reported a student assaulted the staff. Juvenile was arrested on suspicion of battery. And 4:24 p.m. a caller from 100 block of East Main Street reported 2 girls said they were being chased. No crime was found to have occurred. 5:19 p.m. a caller from Elizabeth Daniels Park reported 6 juveniles smoking marijuana. No drugs were found. 8:48 p.m. a woman from 100 block of Cornish Court reported a man threatened her and her mother. He was arrested on an out-of-county warrant. And Thursday, 5 a.m., caller from 500 block of Fawcett Street reported vandalism to a fence. In Nevada County, isn't that a great name, Fawcett Street? Nevada County Sheriff's Office, Wednesday, 8:50 a.m., a caller from 11,000 block of Thornycroft Way reported theft of a quilt by a tenant who was being evicted. And 10:57 a.m., a caller from 21,000 block of Yuba Road reported people causing a disturbance. 2 were arrested on suspicion of being drunk in public. How could you tell? 11:08 a.m., a woman from 15,000 block of Robert Court reported her mother-in-law choked her with the cord of an iPod she was listening to. She said she was wearing headphones and could not hear her mother-in-law calling her. And 12:45 p.m., a caller from 12,000 block of Joan Way reported an assault that occurred Monday. And 1:03 p.m., a caller from Highway 49 and McKnight Way reported a distressed woman running in traffic. And 1:47 p.m., a woman from 10,000 block of Tasha Road reported the theft of medication. And 2:07 p.m., a caller from 10,000 block of Mooney Flat Road reported a burglary. And 2:10 p.m., a caller from 12,000 block of McCourtney Road reported a residential burglary with at least 3 firearms and $1,000 missing. And 2:39 p.m., a woman from 13,000 block of Forest Park Circle reported a residential burglary with theft of a television. And 2:43 p.m., a caller from 16,000 block of Angelina Way reported identity theft. And 3:10 p.m., a caller from 18,000 block of Billadu Lane reported the theft of a chainsaw, 3 cords of firewood, and a guitar. 3:22 p.m., caller from Wings of Morning Drive reported theft of a backhoe. 8:19 p.m., caller from 11,000 block of Ridge Road reported a person in a Jeep was in the yard of a vacant residence and then left. And 9:18 p.m., a caller from Gas Canyon and Banner Quicker Hill Roads reported burglary to a vehicle and theft of a dirt bike. And Nevada City Police Department on Wednesday, 3:28 p.m., a caller from 400 block of Nimrod Lane reported a fight in the middle of the park. And that's it today for the blotter. Now another thanks to one of our underwriters who supports your only visual video news media in Nevada County. That's right, it's us, GVTV News. In today's local news headlines, investigation continues into fatal New Year's pedestrian accident. And erratic behavior in court prompts competency evaluation, and still working on marijuana rules. In a story out of Incline Village in Nevada, the Washoe County District Attorney's Office is still waiting for final pieces of the investigation into the fatal New Year's weekend accident that killed an Incline Village couple before it can determine if criminal charges will be filed against the man who allegedly was driving the truck that struck them. According to previous reports, Christopher Torrey Smith, 25, from Grass Valley, was driving a black 2006 Chevrolet pickup southbound east towards Sand Harbor on Highway 28 east of Village Boulevard intersection shortly before 8 p.m. December 30th when he allegedly struck Linda Mathis and Robert Mathis, who were crossing from the east side. Jennifer P. Noble, a deputy district attorney with WashU, said in a Wednesday interview a preliminary hearing had been tentatively scheduled for Tuesday of this week, but was postponed. We're still waiting for a full report from the Nevada Highway Patrol and an toxicology report from Washoe County Coroner before we can make a charge determination. If charges are filed, Noble has said a preliminary hearing would likely be scheduled at the James V. Mancuso Justice Court in Incline Village. Witness statements and evidence at the scene indicates Mathises were in or close to a painted sidewalk near the Tahoe Regional Transit Agency bus stop near Radio Shack when they were struck, according to published reports. Smith is suspected of being under the influence of drugs at the time of the crash, was booked into Washoe County Jail on suspicion of 2 counts of DUI causing death and failure to yield to 2 pedestrians. His bail was at $60,200. He's been released from jail since then. Unknown Smith attorney Noble said the case is transferred to Michael Bullenbacher, another deputy district attorney, starting next week. Noble's role in the new one will be the appeals begin. Well, they'll still be involved. In a story written by Liz Keller out of the Union, a preliminary hearing into the evidence against the Grass Valley man came to abrupt halt Thursday after his erratic behavior in court prompted his defense attorney to request a mental competency evaluation. Nevada County Superior Court judge had already found sufficient evidence to try Jacob Michael Siegfried, 34, on charges of deprivation of custody, stalking, criminal threats, and making harassing phone calls and intimidating a witness. In a case stemming from a September 2011 arrest, the alleged victim, Anna Mae Oliver, testified that Siegfried refused to bring back their child, after taking him to Burning Man. She also testified Siegfried threatened to take the 3-year-old boy to San Diego or Arizona. Oliver testified after she told him that she would call law enforcement, he threatened to slit their son's throat. He also made multiple threats to beat her and stab her, he said. Oliver testified she could have told Siegfried he could not take the boy to Burning Man during the week because he was scheduled to start classes, but Siegfried's mother, Gloria Carr, testified that Oliver had told her she didn't have a problem with the trip. Siegfried was allowed to sit next to his attorney, David Silber, with one hand unshackled, but earlier in the proceedings, Judge R.W. Smith had to caution Siegfried against making outbursts, then ordered him reshackled. "You're acting borderline irrational," Smith told Siegfried. Siegfried grew visibly irritated as Siegfried continued to fidget and interrupt his attorney to whisper in his ear, reminding him that there was a reason he had counsel and that it would be best to communicate by note. After deciding there was sufficient evidence against Siegfried in the case to proceed to trial, Smith began a preliminary hearing in the second case stemming from November arrest. Oliver was trying to make a child custody exchange when Siegfried had allegedly grabbed her by the hair and tried to pull her into his vehicle. Oliver was able to pull free and a physical fight ensued. During the time she allegedly tried to spray him with mace, passerby saw her lying on the ground. Siegfried fled, but later apprehended at her mother's house after a short foot pursuit. Oliver had just begun testifying when Silber requested a competency evaluation. Smith agreed to suspend all criminal proceedings and referred Siegfried to a psychologist for evaluation. Siegfried complained about his representation, leading Smith to tell him, "You certainly did what you could to interfere with counsel's attempt to represent you." Hearing is set for February 23rd to receive evaluation. A third case involving drug charges are set for conference Thursday afternoon and had been suspended. In that case, Siegfried is alleged to be the owner of a trailer containing 50 pounds of pot that was found abandoned. Nevada County maintenance worker had called dispatch at about 9 a.m. November 29th to report an unoccupied Ford F-350 pickup, a 30-foot trailer, were blocking Champion Road west of Donnieville Highway. The truck was high-centered in a culvert, and its trailer was across both lanes of traffic while already the yield vehicle was towing. The highway patrol officer allegedly smelled a strong odor of marijuana. Searched allegedly uncovered several large bags containing 50 pounds of freshly harvested marijuana packaged materials inside the trailer. In the last story written by Liz Keller, medical marijuana advocates and proponents of the proposal to regulate marijuana cultivation have been meeting regularly to put together a draft ordinance that is acceptable to both sides. But at the meeting, stakeholders with Nevada County officials Friday, Sheriff Keith Royal emphasized their role is not to create the draft ordinance, but to provide input. The proposed ordinance could be presented to the Nevada County Board of Supervisors as early as March, as the board has indicated it wishes to have approval before the marijuana growing season. The proposed ordinance, which drew a standing room only audience when the concept was introduced in November, could limit the number of plants depending on zoning, as well as grows within 1,000 feet of areas where children gather. Royal was given the okay to move forward with the draft and put together a working group of representation from both sides of the issue, as well as the County Council Allison Barrett Green and District Attorney Cliff Newell. At Friday's meeting, Royal asked the group to write down suggestions on a number of issues: number of plants versus square footage, setbacks on residential or rural parcels, whether grows could be restricted to parcels with occupied residents, and fencing height and materials. Told the group the input would be compiled and a draft ordinance would be sent out for one last opportunity for comments before it goes to the supervisors. Opinions seem divided after the meeting as to how much of the work put in by the stakeholders will make a difference in the draft ordinance, with some medical marijuana advocates saying a refusal to budge on federal language will torpedo the support. I believe we take the input. Don Bessie, Nevada County Against Residential Cannabis Cultivation, said going with a product that is some sort of a consensus makes it more likely to become reality. I don't believe everybody is going to love everything, but we get 80%, that's a winner. Some stakeholders have formed a de facto coalition and plan to put on informational workshops in areas of North San Juan. We're not going to just sit back and hope it will go our way. We're working to build a support the concept of the ordinance and hopefully the product that's generated the, well, anyway, the compromise makes it difficult for the sheriff to ignore us. We're going to keep the pressure on and encourage them to incorporate our suggestions. Well, let's hope something happens. And that's it for local news today. Now we'd like to thank the Union, Amy Goodman, Reuters, Associated Press, and others for the sourcing of our news, and you for watching. Don't forget, this is broadcast Comcast Cable, NCTV, Channel 11, Nevada County, 8 a.m., 3 p.m., 7:30 p.m., Monday through Friday, Southern Link 16 in Truckee and Alta Sierra. It is also streamed on internet at NCTV's Digital Media Center website at nevadacountytv.org and gvtv.org. And don't forget Grass Valley Television that plays 24/7 on the net, grassvalleytelevision.com. We post to Facebook, YouTube, blip.tv, and other sites, and have RSS feed and video podcast on iTunes. Just search under video podcast for GVTV News. And that's it today. I hope you had a good New England win, I hope. See you tomorrow. Christopher's, whose Old World Deli and Catering Company, has brought its delicious food and service downtown Grass Valley. Do you like desserts? They got them. You like international style lunches? They got them. Christopher's Deli and Catering for parties, get-togethers, weddings, or whatever. Open 7 days a week.